Hi guys, so today we will be making this cute little fortune cookie amigurumi. So it is an adorable size, it fits in the palm of my hand, and it would be a great little gift, or you could possibly turn it into a keychain, and it's pretty easy to make. So this project is for those who generally already know how to crochet. So if you do not, please click on this video here and I will teach you the basics of crocheting. So now that you have that, let's get this tutorial started. So I'm using Red Heart yarn in the color Buff, which is a perfect like pastry color, and I am using a 4mm hook. I will have the pattern in the description bar. First thing you want to do is start off with your beginning knot and make sure you leave a pretty long tail. We will need this later. And then we want to chain 2 and do 6 in the first chain. And for this project, since I'm going to be doing so many rows, I decided to use a bobby pin stitch marker. So at the beginning of every row, I will put the marker in, and you will see that later on. So next, you want to increase to 12 by doing 2 crochets in each. So when you use the stitch marker on the first stitch, that means that you end up right before the stitch marker on your last stitch. So now we have 12 and we want to increase to 18. Now that we have 18, we want to increase one more time to 24. Now that I have 24, we want to increase to 30. Then we're going to go from 30 to 36. Now that we have 36, we want to go on to 42. Now 42 to 48. Now that we have 48, we want to go up to 54. Now that we have 54, look how big it's gotten. We just need to increase one more time to 60, and then we can start putting the cookie together. So here is all 60. This is how big it is compared to my palm. It's about the same size as my palm, a little bit bigger. So we want to take our stitch marker out because we don't need it anymore. And then we want to slip stitch into the next stitch so it doesn't have too rough of an edge, like a full dip, like so. And then we want to pull a pretty long tail. I'm going to say about a 1.5 feet long, like that. Now that we have our cookie piece done, we want to move that aside and do our little tiny fortune sticking out. So this is optional, of course, but I am just using some white Red Heart yarn. I don't have the label for it anymore because, as you can see, I used up a lot of it. So this part is really simple. We just start off with our beginning knot. The tail size does not matter at all. And then we want to chain 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and skip the 2 stitches by our hook, and in the third one, single crochet all the way down across the 4 down the row. And the reason we skipped those 2 is so we could get a nice like flat edge. So now we want to just chain 1 and then skip that one and do the 4 back across the row in single crochets. So there's our 4, and we want to make a tail a little bit longer because we're going to sew it back in so that we have both tails on both sides. So just a little bit longer than your piece. Jack, you seriously have to keep drinking every time I film something. Ugh. My bunny is thirsty. Num num num. And then we want to thread the tail in our plastic needle and then just do a running weave stitch in and out so we can get back to the other end. Doesn't have to be perfect, but try not to make it sloppy looking because this part will be on the outside. This end, however, doesn't really matter. Like so. So there's our little fortune tab. And now we want to bring back our cookie, and we want to flip it over to the wrong side. You can tell the difference because the right side is much prettier than the wrong side, and our tail is out the back. So I'm pretty sure you can tell the difference between the two. So we want to thread our beginning tail in here, and then we want to fold this in half. And you don't want to fold it in half with this on the side because when we flip it, it'll end up being in the middle. So we want to start with it right in the middle, like this. And as you can tell, it is like in hexagon. I'm not sure, the polygons, whatever, the 6-sided polygon thing. And we just want to meet up those points with this in the middle. And then we want to take our tail and go in about 1/3 of the way and just sew some stitches. And we just want to go up and down, back and forth right here in the middle repeatedly because this is where our bend for our fortune cookie will be. And don't worry if you didn't cut a long enough tail in the beginning. You can just use a spare piece of yarn and just tie it off. But I think just making the long tail in the beginning saves you yarn. So then we just want to tie it off. Whoop. Make a nice little knot so it doesn't come undone. So just leave this tail attached because it'll be in our filling. So now what we want to do is open it up like this, and I know it looks a bit weird, but it'll look good, I promise. So just open it up like this, and you want to meet these seam lines together like so. So there's our fortune cookie. Now, before we start sewing and stuffing, what we need to do is put a face on it. So this is where you get out your needle and thread, or felt if you want to, or safety eyes, or whatever you want to use. But I am just going to stitch on the mouth, and then I will add the eyes later with some black scribbles. So let me just show you that real quick. I think I'm going to do it on this side because it was opposite on my last one. And you want to go kind of close to the edge. I'm going to do a W mouth. Like that, and I'm going to go back over it again so it's double the thickness. So here it is, and I just tied a knot off in the back and snipped it. So now what we want to do is start sewing it together, and we want to grab just a little bit of stuffing because we are going to stuff as we go. And by a little bit I mean like this much I think would be good for now. And I always like to roll it in my hands to make it more compact and easier to work with. And then we want to thread our needle, our plastic needle. And this part's pretty easy, so all we have to do is squish it, and then we go in, we pretty much pair up the stitches, line them up, and go in to each stitch. And we're just doing a normal like whip stitch where it whips around like this. And we just go into each set of stitch pairs and do this all the way to about here-ish, and I'll show you what to do next. And don't forget to stuff as you go. So now that we're past the bend point, I just want to stuff it a bit more and stuff it to the likeness that you like it. You don't really even have to stuff it, but it will collapse on itself if you don't. So, yep. And then we have to figure out where we want the paper placement. So I usually like it around the same area as the mouth, so it's like the fortune cookie is telling you this little heart thing or whatever message thing you want to put on it, or leave it blank, whatever, but you know what I mean. So I think I'm going to place it right there. So you just want to hold on to it and keep on stitching. And then when we get up to the paper, what we want to do, instead of whipping it, because this will be in the way, we just want to kind of go back and forth. So here is this stitch, and we go all the way through it and out the next one, like that. And then we flip it over and go into the next one. And make sure you go through the white paper as well, and it doesn't slip out. And like that. And go through it again. It's usually about 3 zigzag things back and forth, like ladder stitches, before you can go back to the whip stitch. like that. And keep going until the end. And here are the last 2 stitches, one here and one here, and I'm going to go through both of them at the same time. If it ends up you're on the odd and you only have 1 stitch left, just go through that 1 stitch, it's fine. Just want to make sure you go all the way to the end as much as possible. And then what I like to do is go the opposite way of the way the yarn's coming out. So go back this way and go in through the piece, anywhere where it can get pretty hidden, and pull it through. And I usually like to end up in the little bend and cut it. And cut it there and tug on it a little so the end sucks back on the inside, and there you have it. So next I want to do the face and the little heart message. Of course, like I said, the way you do the face is totally optional, up to you, and this is optional, and putting heart on it is optional. So here is our finished cute little fortune cookie. So of course, if you use scribbles, you want to let it dry, and then you can give it as a gift, or like I said, put a keychain on it and wear it around. It is totally cute, and I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye!